Hey, what's up, everybody? Video 44 coming at you with another video. All right, so I was way off when it came to the lottery. My guess was the Portland Trailblazers. They ended up with the 7th pick and the 14th overall pick. The reason being was because I think the 14th pick they got from someone else. It was actually supposed to go to Golden State or something like that, and it ended up going to them. The Atlanta Hawks got the first overall pick there, and they had the 5th worst odds. So I said it could be interesting if there was a shakeup of some sort. This was a major shakeup. They moved all the way up and snagged the number 1. Washington went number 2. Houston, literally one of the best teams ever assembled of young talent, in my opinion, now has the 3rd overall pick in the NBA draft of 2024, which is just like unfair, man. You can't possibly think that they're not going to be a very, very good team going forward now that they got the 3rd overall pick on top of every damn thing else they got, including last year getting the 5th overall best prospect at 20 because all the rest of the league was stupid enough to drop Cam Whitmore. So they're going to be at the top of this lottery as well. Somehow, I don't know who they took that pick from, but it went into the top 3 and they got it. I don't think it was their natural born pick. I'm pretty sure it wasn't. So what you have is 2 teams that were in the play-in tournament in Atlanta and I think Houston. No, they didn't make the play-in tournament. They were fresh right behind the play-in tournament after going on that long stretch. They just missed the playoffs. They're in the top 3. So you got good teams or teams that were not horrible getting better. And then you got San Antonio, who had the 1st overall pick. They got the 4th pick in the draft and the 8th pick in the draft because they ended up getting a pick from somebody somehow that ended up being a lottery pick. So you got 2 top 10 prospects of this draft going to go play with Wemby next year. That is huge, massive for the prospect of them being a much better team. So you can see Wemby's squad starting to assemble. It'll be interesting to see if they keep those picks or if they do something else with them. But Portland has the 7th and the 14th overall pick, so they too have 2 lottery picks. I think Detroit and Charlotte fell 5 and 6 respectively, and then it shook out a different way. I didn't memorize after that. But poor Detroit, poor Washington, they tanked so hard to find themselves with 5 and 6 is just devastating for them. And then you look at teams that are much better than them, like Houston, and then freaking Atlanta getting the 1st and 3rd overall picks. And then, of course, Washington did pretty good. They got the 2nd overall pick. Too bad they didn't win the lottery. But I don't think it's that much of a distance between Risa Shea. I said Risa Shea in the video previous too, but it's Risa Shea, I believe, and Alex Sarr. I don't think it's that much of a gap between those 2 different positions. But you're going to be happy getting either one of those guys. So that's what I see there, man. Very, very interesting lottery. I haven't done any thinking. I'm obviously still early in my scouting of these players, so it's a long way away from making a mock draft, but I'm pretty sure I'll do that. I'm excited about doing a mock draft, my 2nd annual mock draft. So somewhere down the road, probably not very soon, I'll get all the homework done and then mock that out before the draft comes up. At the end of June sometime. I didn't check exactly what day that is, but it's somewhere in there at the end of June. So yeah, man, that is what we have. The Atlanta Hawks, congratulations to everybody in the ATL. It's the first time they've gotten the 1st overall pick since 1975. It's been a long time since they had that, so I know they're excited, and I'm pretty sure Washington is happy not to have dropped out because they had the 2nd best odds to get the 1st overall pick and end up with the 2nd pick in the draft. So I'm pretty sure they'll be happy there. And then freaking Houston, man. I'm glad this isn't a super talented draft. In fact, it's supposed to be one of the worst drafts, as we mentioned before. But still, I mean, you're still getting fantastic prospects at the top of this draft regardless. And Houston and Atlanta were not necessarily expected to be in that position. Atlanta specifically is really interesting because if they get Risa Shea, you got James Johnson and Risa Shea coming in. Those are 2 serious wings, man. I don't know if they'll address the center position and go with Alex Sarr, but if I were them, I'd take Risa Shea and pair him up with Jalen Johnson, and boy, will they have a fantastic duo of wings with those 2. That's a dream, man. I hope they do take him. They may want to take Sarr though, because obviously the center position is always important. But they got a Kongwu, they got um, Capella, so I mean maybe they could upgrade the center position. But I would take Reece Shea in that situation. I would snatch him up and wouldn't think twice about that. Pair him up with Johnson and have two of the best small forward, power forward guys in the Eastern Conference as they develop, because they're both going to be ridiculous on both sides of the floor, and that could be a franchise changer. Picking up Reece Shea for the Atlanta Hawks. So if I'm a guessing man, I'd say he's the first overall pick unless something shakes out. That's who I would take, and I wouldn't think twice about it for Atlanta specifically. And then Sarr would probably go to Washington unless they love somebody else, but likely Sarr goes to Washington. So that's how I have it shaking out right now. And in Houston, I mean, they got to pick from whoever they want after that. And whoever is added to that team is probably just going to boost to the bench, since they already have their starting five intact. There's wild stuff going on in Houston, man. They got nothing but lottery picks. They should be, if everybody develops, what you're going to find is that they have an absolute super team. Absolute super team. A lot of teams are trying to put together 2 and 3 all-stars. They're going to have about 8 or 9 of them, the way that this lottery is shaking out for that basketball franchise. So Houston is the big winner today, because they weren't supposed to have a pick like that. Not at all. I think they were projected to get like the 7th overall pick or the 8th overall pick from a different team, and I think that pick ended up turning into this here, the 3rd pick. So I think they won it all. They won the lottery, in my opinion, because of how good they were already, only for them to find themselves with the 3rd overall pick. And then, like I said, 2 teams with 2 lottery picks in the Portland Trailblazers and the San Antonio Spurs. Great situation for those teams. I know they would have loved to have won the lottery, but when you talk about bringing in 2 lottery picks to each of these tanking situations, they can both consider moving those picks to get better, or moving those picks to move up, or some variation if they choose, or just draft the best duo they can and add it to the situation. So this is a real shakeup, man. I know this is not a very talented draft, but this is definitely not what you thought you would see at all. With Atlanta taking the 1st overall pick and Houston taking 3rd, those are 2 teams that were already winning. Not to say that they were in the playoffs, because obviously they're not, but they weren't far from it. I mean, Atlanta could have made the playoffs if they would have beat Chicago in the play-in tournament. You know what I mean? They were right there. They got stars and tradable assets. Trae Young may be on the move, so I don't know how this pick is going to affect the Trae Young situation. Obviously, DeJounte Murray, they may want to move one of those guys or both of those guys now that they got the 1st overall pick in this draft. I think they got a whole different type of look for their team at this point. So it would be curious to see what the experts think about the prospect of them making trades with the intention of maybe tanking, or trading the 1st overall pick with the intention of bringing back something that could help them win now. I don't think that's a crazy bet that the Atlanta Hawks actually trade number 1. I don't think that's a crazy bet, because they do have a weird timeline where if they do keep Trae Young or DeJounte Murray, or don't make a move at all in a trade, they may want to bring themselves a star, a win now guy, somebody who can help them, rather than waiting on Reece Shea or Sarr to develop, or cling in if they decided to go in a different direction, which I doubt they would. But that is going to be a pick that a lot of teams are going to be calling to try to get. I can tell you that right now. Maybe they move down, try to take 2 from San Antonio, let San Antonio have the 1st overall pick. Depends on what they think. So I don't quite know what Atlanta wants to do, but given the fact that Trae Young could potentially be on the move, I think them acquiring this asset puts them in a much better position of negotiation in regards to those particular trades. Not to say that they would move those trades in that trade, but it just means that you're richer. And as I always say, when you're at the negotiation table, the more you have that is valuable, the more leverage you have. People know you're not as desperate. So I think that Atlanta looks a lot more serious of an asset holding team now that they've gotten that 1st overall pick, knowing that they're probably going to the trade table to try to move either Trae Young or Murray. So Yeah, that's extremely intriguing to me. Them being in this position, acquiring that level of an asset, uh, that's manna from heaven for the Atlanta Hawks franchise. And they are not a team that's, in my opinion, known for making good decisions. They're not. So hopefully they don't botch this situation. But this could be a franchise changer for them significantly, especially being in the Eastern Conference is extremely weak. So yeah, that's what I gotta say, man. That's what I gotta say. I like this situation for them. The Washington Wizards are moving slowly into the future. They last year they took what's the young fella's name who actually represented them tonight in the draft lottery? I can't think of his name, but I think he turned out to be a pretty good prospect. Nice long wing, could play some defense, a little offense here and there. Wish his name would come to mind, but nevertheless, that type of player could help them. Maybe adding Sarr to that mix, slowly but surely they're starting to put it together, man. They're probably gonna tank again this year. I don't see them being any good at all this season, but it's coming together in Washington. You could definitely see that it's coming together. They love getting that second overall pick and maybe adding Sarr or Richache to that situation. I don't know why that kid's name just went out the window. Anyway, point is, I like them in this situation. This is the tanking is going well for the Washington Wizards. Slowly but surely, they're going to accumulate assets and continue to be bad over the next several years to try to bring themselves all types of stuff in the draft, I think. And of course, they're up to get a new coach, so that should be interesting there as well. So, yeah, man, San Antonio, are you going to keep those picks? Or are you going to trade them for a star, man? You got the 4th pick, you got the 8th pick. You pair that together, you could get somebody and bring that somebody to Wembanyama, or you can have his next running mates and get you a point guard, maybe another wing, add that to the situation. So, they're going to have an extremely young team in San Antonio, and I just wonder, even though obviously Wembanyama's coming off his rookie season, if he's not ready to win, I don't know if he's going to want to wait on some prospects, especially since this is not a great draft. Maybe you can pair them two together, send those picks out, maybe get you a Trae Young, depending on how you can match salary. And then Atlanta has like 3 lottery picks in this draft. Start their rebuild, keep Jalen Johnson in place. I don't know if that's a possibility, but that's the type of position San Antonio and Atlanta are in to where they could do something like that. Go back and get DeJounte Murray for the 4th overall pick and maybe players attached. These are things that are really possible. I would not totally be surprised to see something like that happen. Not at all. Not at all. I think Atlanta and San Antonio may be looking to reunite DeJounte Murray back into San Antonio. And yeah, that could be really interesting if something like that were possible. So yeah, man, you might race in a million different ways when you see the lottery shake up like it did. It was nothing simple taking place today. At all. With Atlanta, absolute dark horse, out of left field as possible, walks away with the 1st overall pick. So that is pretty much what I have to say about that, man. I'm intrigued. I'm happy that it went this way as a person who doesn't have any skin in the game. And I kind of wish this were a more talented draft so it could really shake the NBA up even more. But we'll see what these kids do. And that's pretty much what I have to say. My name is BDF44. I thank you all for watching. I'm out.